Myself, Dr. Bibhuti Dutt Singh, B.Sc Department of Zoology, DAV PG College, Siwan, Bihar. Today we are going to talk about introduction of vertebrate endocrinology. This topic is most important for B.Sc Part 2 Zoology Honors. This potential topic includes the point number 1, what is gland? Point number 2, hormones and its type. Point number 3, and types of glands, exocrine and endocrine, and its hormones. Actually, endocrinology is a branch of science which deals with the study of endocrine glands. Father of endocrinology is known as Thomas Edison. Starting 1905, introduced the term hormones, and Williams, Walsh, and H. Starling in 1903 first hormones and discovered. Actually, a gland is an organ which produce and release the substances that perform a specific function in the body. Definitions of hormones. Hormones are the non-nutrient chemicals and which acts as the intracellular messenger and produce in trace amount. A hormones is any membrane members of a class of signaling molecules and produced by glands in multicellular organisms that are transported by the circulatory system to target distinct organs to regulate the physiological behavior. Types of hormones. Actually, on the basis of chemical nature, these are as follows. 1. Amino acid derivatives hormones. Epinephrine and norepinephrine are derived from the amino acid tyrosines. Methionines, melatonins, and serotonins are derived from tryptophan. Point number 2, peptide hormones and protein hormones. Example for peptide hormones are the hypothalamic hormones. Example, antidiuretic hormones, ADH. Protein hormones includes insulin, glucagon, pituitary hormones. Example, growth hormones, thyroid stimulating hormones, and thyrocalcitonin hormones and parathyroid hormones. Point number 3, iodothyronins. Iodothyronins is a group of iodinated amino acids and which a diphenyl ether rings system in the side chains. And point number 4, steroid hormones. Example for the aldosterone, cortisols, androgens, testosterone, estrogens, and progesterone. Properties of hormones. The main properties of hormones are as follows. They are produced at the time one site and they passed by the blood to the another site for action. Number 2, they have low molecular weight. Point number 3, hormones may be steroids, proteins, peptides, and amino acids derivatives. Point number 4, they are secreted by the animals in its own body. Point number 5, they are effective and low concentration. Types of glands. Actually, the glands are classified into different visits. 1. Based on site of secretions, these are 3 types. Exocrine glands, glands with ducts. Actually, the secretion of these glands are carried by ducts to a particular organs and from same metabolic activities. Examples: salivary glands, liver, etc. Number 2, endocrine glands, ductless glands or glands of internal secretion, and these glands have no ducts and their secretions get absorbed into the intermediate surrounding blood concentration to reach the specific organs to initiate a particular metabolic changes. The endocrine gland secretes chemicals called hormones or internal secretion. Example: pituitary glands, thyroid glands, adrenal glands, etc. Heterocrine glands. These glands and which have dual function secretions of the hormones and some other functions are called the heterocrine gland. Example: parapancreases, testes, ovaries, etc. Vertebrate endocrine glands. The different kinds of exocrine and endocrine glands found in human body. These are hypothalamus, 1, 2 pituitary glands, 3 pineal glands, 4 thyroid glands, 5 parathyroid glands, 6 thymus gland, 7 pancreas gland, 8 adrenal glands, 9 testes, 10 ovary, other endocrine glands. Example: heart, kidneys, placenta, gastrointestinal tract. You can see the different types of endocrine glands show all endocrine and exocrine glands. So the different kinds of exocrine and endocrine glands have the specific and significant role in human endocrinology. First, number 1, hypothalamus, control center or supreme commander of endocrine regulation. Origins of hypothalamus. Hypothalamus develops and from the ectoderm of the embryo. Location: it lies below the inferior to the thalamus. It provides the anatomical connection between the nervous and endocrine system. Hormones of hypothalamus: they are neurosecretory cells, neurons, or hypothalamus secretes hormones called the neuro-hormones, releasing factors, and these hormones are 1. ARH, adrenocorticotropic releasing hormones, or corticotropin releasing hormones. It stimulates the anterior lobe of the pituitary glands, secrete its adrenocorticotropic hormones HCTH. Number 2, TRH, thyrotropin releasing hormones. It stimulates the anterior lobe of the pituitary glands to secrete its thyroid stimulating hormones TSH or thyrotropin. Number 3, GHRH, growth hormones releasing hormones. It stimulates the anterior lobe of the pituitary glands to release its growth hormones GH or somatotropins. Just like you can show the location of the hypothalamus gland. Number 4, GHIS and growth hormones, inhibitory hormones. The hormones is also called somatostatin SS It inhibits the secretions of growth hormones from the anterior lobe of the pituitary glands. Number 5, GnRH, gonadotrophin releasing hormones. It stimulates the anterior lobe of the pituitary glands to secrete the gonadotrophins, hormones, follicle stimulating hormones FSH, and luteinizing hormones and LH. Number 6, PRH, prolactin releasing hormones. It stimulates the anterior lobe of the pituitary glands to secrete its prolactin. Number 7, and PIH, prolactin inhibitory hormones. It inhibits the secretion of prolactin from the anterior lobe of pituitary glands. Number 7, MSHRH, MSH releasing hormones. It stimulates the intermediate lobe of the pituitary glands to secrete its melanocytes stimulating hormones and MSH. Number 7, MSHIH, MSH inhibitory hormones. It inhibits the secretions of the melanocytes stimulating hormones and from the intermediate lobe of the pituitary glands and targets cells neurohormones, acts on the cells of the pituitary glands. You show showing the hypothalamus. This diagram you can identify an exact location of the hypothalamus. Number 2, endocrine glands known as the pituitary gland. Pituitary gland is the hypophysis cerebri and master endocrine glands. Location, origins of pituitary glands. It develops from the ectoderm of the embryo. Location, the pituitary gland is located and just below the hypothalamus. The pituitary gland is situated in a depressions of the sella turcica and of the sphenoid bones of the skull. The pituitary gland is the smallest endocrine glands. It is about 1.3 cm in diameters and weight about half a gram. Hormones of pituitary glands. A. Hormones of anterior lobe adenohypophysis. Number 1, STH or GH, growth hormones or somatotrophins. The hormones stimulates growth hormones, promotes protein metabolisms, the absorptions of calciums and from the bowels of the conversions of glycogens to glucose. Target cells and various body cells and which undergoes growth. Number 2, TSH, thyroid stimulating hormones or the thyrotrophins. The hormones controls the growth and activity of the thyroid glands. It influence the uptake iodines, the synthesis of the hormones thyroxine and triiodothyronine by the thyroid glands. Number 2, pituitary glands and TSH. Target cells, the cells of thyroid glands. Number 3, ACTH, adenocorticotropic hormones. This hormones stimulates the cortex of the adrenal glands to produce its hormones. Target cells, cells of the adrenal cortex. Hormone number 4, PRL or MTH or LTH, prolactin hormones or mammotropin hormones or leukotropic hormones. Prolactin is also called the hormones of maternity because it means physiological effect to activates growth of breast during pregnancy and secretion of mammary glands after childbirth. The name of leukotropic hormones and LTH refers to because it stimulates the corpus luteum of the ovary to secrete progesterone hormones. Target cells of the mammary glands. Number 5, gonadotropin hormones, and these are the as follows: A. FSH and follicle stimulating hormones. It stimulates growth of ovarian follicles and their secretions of estrogens in the female and spermatogenesis, formation of sperm in male. B. Hormones of intermediate lobe. 1. Melanotropin and MSH. And LH last. Luteinizing hormones. In female, that stimulates the corpus luteum or the ovary, secrete the progesterone. In male, that activates the Leydig cells of the testes to secrete the androgens. Hence, they may be called interstitial cells stimulating hormones ICSH. Target cells of the gonads, ovaries, and testes. B. Hormones of the intermediate lobes. The intermediate lobe of the pituitary glands secretes melanotropins or melanocytes stimulating hormones MSH, and this hormones caused and dispersal of pigment granules into the pigment of cells, thereby darkening the colors. It shorten animals like fishes and amphibians, and it is believed that it is associated with the growth and development of melanocytes in man, and which give color to the skin. Target cells melanocytes in skin. C. Hormones of posterior lobe neurohypophysis. The secretion of the posterior lobe is known as pituitary. That contains two hormones: one, oxytocins or pitocins; number 2, antidiuretic hormones ADH or vasopressin. Oxytocin or pitocin. Oxytocin promotes concentration of the uterine muscles and contraction of the myoepithelial cells of the lactating breast. In late pregnancy, to oxytocins, the amount secreted increases just before during the labor and the sulking of the baby. Because of its role, oxytocin is called birth hormones or milk ejecting hormones. Milk inject synthesis oxytocins called the pitocins into their cows and the buffaloes to get more milk. The target cells, the cells of the mammary glands. Actually, second, ADH, antidiuretic hormones or vasopressin or pitocin. This hormones, the two main functions: one, antidiuretic effects. It increases the reabsorptions of the water into the distal convoluted tubules and collecting ducts of the nephrons of the kidneys. As a result, the reabsorptions of the water from the glomerular filter is increased. Number second, the pressure effect. Involuntary muscles in the walls of the intestine, gallbladder, urinary bladders, and blood vessels are stimulated. To contract by the ADH, concentration of the wall of the blood vessels rises the blood pressure, and this may be its most important pressure effect. Target cells, cells of kidneys. You can see the diagrams of the pituitary glands and show the different lobes: adenohypophysis lobe and neurohypophysis lobe, anterior pituitary glands and posterior pituitary glands. Next endocrine glands is pineal gland. Pineal glands is also known as the epiphysis. Pineal glands has a mass of 0.1 to 0.2 grams. Origins: it develops from the ectoderms of the embryo. Location: the pineal glands is located between the cerebral hemisphere, where it produces from the roof of the third ventricles. The pineal glands is a small rounded body and which consists of the pineal cells and supporting glial cells. Hormones of pineal glands. The different hormones are as follows. Number 1, melatonin hormones. Through the function of the glands, still subject to the current research, it is known as the secrete melatonin hormones, also called the sleep hormones. Because it promotes sleep, its secretion increases the dim light and decreases in bright light. Melatonin hormones also play a role in biological clock. Number 2, hormones and serotonin, and neurotransmitters, and found in other locations in the brain. It also found in the pineal gland. Research evidence is accumulating to support the idea that the pineal gland may be involved in the regulating cycle phenomena in the body. Just you can see the diagrams of brain, a part of brain, and the location, exact location of the pineal glands. Show the human brain showing pineal glands. Next, endocrine glands is the thyroid glands. Thyroid glands, the origins of the thyroid glands are developed from the endoderms of the embryo, and locations: the thyroid gland is the largest endocrine glands and located anterior to the thyroid cartilage of the larynx in the neck. Hormones of thyroid glands. The thyroid glands secrete the different kinds of the hormones. Number 1, thyroxine, T4, and triiodothyronines, and T3. T4 and T3 and contain 4 and 3 atoms of the iodine respectively, and therefore they are named so. And T4 and T3 have similar effects on the target cells, and they are generally considered together under the hormones and thyroid hormones. the thyroid gland is the only gland that stores its hormones in large quantity. T4 and T3 are synthesized by the attaching iodine to tyrosine, and tyrosine is a type of the amino acids, and show the function of thyroxine. T4 and T3 triiodothyronines are as follows. Now, 1. They regulate the metabolic activities of the body. 2. They stimulate protein synthesis. Number 3. They increase heat production. Thus they maintain body temperature. They help in metamorphosis of tadpole into adult frog. If the thyroid glands of the tadpole larva is removed, the larva fails to change into an adult. Thyrocalcitonin, ICT, it secretes when calcium level is high in the blood. It then lowers of the calcium levels by suppressing rays of the calcium ions from the bones. Calcitonin is a peptide which contains 32 amino acids. You can see the thyroid glands and different lobes of the thyroid glands, and right lobes and left lobes, and just like the trachea, you can see the trachea. So this is just like left lobes of the thyroid glands and right lobes of the thyroid glands. Next, endocrine glands, parathyroid glands. Actually, the origins of the parathyroid glands, they develops from the ectoderms of the embryo. Locations: the parathyroid glands consist of 4 separate glands located on the posterior surface of the lobes of the thyroid glands. Hormones of the parathyroid glands. 1. PTH, parathyroid hormones. The chief cells of parathyroids secrete a hormones called the parathyroid hormones and PTH. Or the parathyroid hormones is Colip's hormones. After the name of its discoverer, the main function of parathyroid glands and parathyroid hormones regulates the calcium and phosphate balance between the blood and other tissues, and PTH, parathyroid hormones, has an effect to the opposite effect of calcitonin. Showing the exact location of the parathyroid glands. Just like the parathyroid glands are embedded in thyroid glands. The parathyroid glands is embedded in thyroid glands. So you can see the parathyroid glands. Next, thymus gland. At birth, thymus commonly weight between 10 and 15 grams. It contains a growth of the age of puberty when the weight ranges between 13 to 40 grams. Origins: it derived from the endoderms of the embryo. Locations: the thymus gland located in mediastinum between the sternum and aorta. It is a soft bilobed masses of the lymphoid tissues. It is a prominent gland at the time of the birth, but is gradually atrophies in the adult. Hormones of thyroid glands. Thymus secrete a hormones named thymosins, and which stimulates the development of certain kinds of white blood cells involved in the producing immunity, just like the lobe of thymus glands. You can see the exact diagrams and clear-cut diagrams of the thymus gland. Next gland, the pancreas glands. Or pancreas gland is a dual in nature, and so have the special properties of the exocrine and endocrine both hormones. Actually, the origins of the pancreas gland, it derived from the endoderms of the embryo. Location, the pancreas lies inferior to the stomach in a bend of the stomach or of the duodenums. It is both on exocrine and endocrine glands. A pancreatic duct runs through the gland carrying enzymes and other exocrine digestive secretions, and from the pancreatic acinar cells to the small intestine. The tissues of a acinar cells and group of cells called islets of Langerhans. Often the name of theirs discovered 1869. Types of cells identified in the islets of Langerhans. Number 1, alpha cells, about the percentage 15% produced glucagon. Alpha cells are known as the A cells. Number B, beta cells, about 65% produce insulin. Beta cells are also called the B cells. Number 3, delta cells or D cells, about 5% produce somatostain SS. Pancreatic polypeptide cells or PP cells or F cells, percentage 15%, and produce pancreatic polypeptides and PP. Hormones of pancreas and their roles. Actually, the different hormones. Number 1, glucagon stimulates the liver to convert stored glycogen, glucagon, into glucose. Glucagon is also called as anti-insulin hormones and target cells, and glucagon acts on the cells of the liver and adipose tissues. Insulin, it is antagonistic to the glycogens insulin and convert glucose into glycogens in the liver and muscles. Actually, target cells, insulin acts as the cells of the liver muscles and adipose tissues, and somatostain and SS, the same substance, as a growth inhibiting hormones, and from the hypothalamus it produced not only by the pancreas and hypothalamus but also by the same cells of the digestive tract. One of the actions and the somatostain and seems to appear to release to the hormones from the pancreas target cells, and both somatostain and pancreatic polypeptide acts on the cells of the pancreases. This is the pancreas gland and the lobe of the pancreas glands. And just like the upper part of the pancreas, the situated the special gland, and this is known as the gallbladders. The main site productions of the and storage of the bile juice. And pancreas. Another glands, this is known as the adrenal glands and suprarenal glands and glands of emergency. Glands of emergency. Actually, the origins of the adrenal cortex, mesoderm in origins and locations, and these are paired, structured and located in the top of the kidneys. The main hormones of adrenal glands, the adrenal cortex, the origins of adrenal cortex is derived from the mesoderm embryo, and adrenal cortex is subdivided into three zones. One, zona glomerulosa. This is the outer zones that lies just below the capsules. Second, zona fasciculata, and this is the middle zones and which is the widest of the three zones. Number three, zona reticularis, and this is the inner zones that constitute about 7% of the glands. The hormones of the endocrine glands, hormones of adrenal cortex. Actually, all hormones of the adrenal cortex are the synthesized from cholesterol, and corticosteroids are grouped into three categories. Number one, mineralocorticoids, glucocorticoids, and gonadocorticoids. Actually, the number one, mineralocorticoids, and these hormones are secreted by the cells of the zona glomerulosa of the adrenal gland cortex. As the name indicates, they are responsible for the regulation of mineral metabolisms. Target cells, mineralocorticoids, acts as the cells of the kidneys. Actually, the glucocorticoids, as their name suggested, they affect carbohydrates metabolisms. However, they also affect in metabolisms of proteins and fats. The glucocorticoids includes the three main hormones. Number one, and cortisols, and corticosterone, and corticosteroid. And cortisol is the stimulates in the breakdown of fats in adipose tissues and release fatty acid into the blood, and thus cortisols has anti-insulin effects. It also helps in reducing pain. Cortisols is anti-inflammatory. It retards phagocytic activities of the WBCs, and thus suppressed inflammations reactions. The hormones also reduced the number of mast cells, inducing secretion of histamines, and this is also an anti-inflammatory effects. Cortisols is also known as immunosuppressive. It is suppressed synthesis of antibodies by inhibiting the productions of lymphocytes in the lymphoid tissues. And cortisols has the capacity to cope with stress. When we are under stress, our body and secretes cortisols. That is why, and these hormones are called the stress hormones. Actually, the target cells, glucocorticoids, acts on the cells of the liver. Gonadocorticoids and sexocorticoids, they are also called the sex hormones of adrenal glands. Large quantities of the male of the female sexocorticoids, sex hormones, are produced. The male of sex hormones are called androgens, and which are important in the development of the male fetus. Androgens stimulates the development of male secondary sexual characters like the distribution of the body, hairs. And females, sex hormones secreted by the adrenal cortex are estrogens, and which maintains the development of secondary sexual characters, and target cells, corticocorticoids, acts on the cells of the gonads and testes and ovaries. You can see the diagrams, the adrenal glands and adrenal glands, the different parts of the adrenal glands. The human kidney shows adrenal glands. So already the adrenal glands are found in the tip of the kidney. Testes, the testes also called the testicles, and they have two oval-shaped organs in the male reproductive system, and they contained in a sac of the skin called the scrotums, the connective tissues, and present between the seminiferous tubules in a testis contain small clusters of endocrine cells and called the interstitials, called androgens. And origins that develops from the mesoderm, from the embryo. Locations: a pair of testes situated in the scrotums of male. Hormones of testes: testosterone. Testes secrete the various male sex hormones called the androgens, and the principal androgens is testosterone hormones. So you can see the diagrams of the testes showing human testes. This is the clear-cut structure of the testes. Another, number 10, endocrine glands or exocrine in natures. Examples: ovary. The ovary is an organ found in the female reproductive systems that produce an ovums. Origins: they develop from the mesoderms of the embryo. Locations: in the female, the ovaries are the located in the pelvic cavity, in close proximity of the oviducts and the uterus. Hormones of ovary: the different hormones are as follows, are also released by the ovaries. Number 1, estrogens. These are secreted by the cells of Graafian follicles. It stimulates the development of female secondary sex characters during puberty and maintains them through the reproductive years of the adult life. And it also stimulates maturations of the ova and development of the uterine epitheliums and the mammary glands. Progesterone is secreted by the corpus luteum of the ovary. It stimulates further development of the uterine epitheliums and mammary glands. It also required for the formation of placenta and the maintenance of the pregnancy. Another hormone is relaxins. It's secreted by the corpus luteum only during the later stage of the pregnancy and helps to the soften ligaments. Inhibin actin is secreted by the corpus luteum. Inhibin hormones inhibits the actin hormones, activates of the follicle stimulating hormones, and FSH and gonadotrophin releasing hormones, and GnRH. So you can see the female reproductive system showing ovary. The different one pair of ovary, left ovary and right ovary. And you can see the clear-cut sections, and you can see the location of the uterus and loop of the ovary, left and right loop of the ovary. Number 11, kidney. In humans, the excretory system consists of a pair of kidneys. Each kidney of an adult human measures and 10 to 20 cm in length, 5 to 7 cm in width, 2 to 3 cm in thickness, with average weight of 120 to 170 grams. Origins of kidney that develop from the mesoderms of the embryo. Locations: they are located on both sides of the spine and behind the stomach. Hormones of kidney: the kidneys secrete the three hormones: 1. Renin, 2. Erythropoietin, and calcitriol. Renin, whenever the rate of ultrafiltration falls, the cells of these glomerulus complex secretes and release into the body a compound named renin. Erythropoietins, the oxygen shortage stimulates the kidney cells to secrete a hormone named the erythropoietin. Erythropoietin stimulates the bone marrow to increase the production of the RBCs, red blood corpuscles, and calcitriol is the active forms of vitamin D. It promotes the absorption of calcium ion and phosphorus in the small intestine. And accelerates bone formations. The diagrams of human kidney, left and right kidney, show the one pair of kidney found in human body. The main functions of a kidney: the elimination of the waste materials and excretory products. Just like you can see the sections of the human kidney, very clear-cut diagrams, and you can see the different lobes of the kidney. Another endocrine glands known as the placenta. Actually, the placenta is the intimate connection between the fetus and the uterine wall of the mothers to actions the maintenance. The placenta is a temporary endocrine glands during pregnancy. The placenta provides for the actions of the nutrient and waste between mother and developing fetus. Origins of placenta are formed by the extra embryonic mesoderms. Locations: the placenta is located at the top of side of the uterus. Human placenta secretes some hormones like the estrogens, progesterone, HCG human chorionic gonadotropins, and HCS human chorionic mammotropins and another's chorionic thyrotropins and chorionic corticotropins and relaxins. Function of these hormones. Estrogens and progesterone have the same rules as in the non-pregnant state. However, the placental progesterone also checks contraction of uterine muscles and thus helps to maintain the pregnancy. Number 2, HCG, human chorionic gonadotropins, stimulates progesterone release from the corpus luteum and maintains it. Presence of human chorionic gonadotropins hormones in urine indicates the pregnancy. Number 3, HCS, human chorionic somatomammotrophins, stimulates the growth of the mammary glands. Placental relaxins and causes relaxations of the ligaments of pubic symphysis, and towards the termination of the pregnancy it softens and widens the opening of the cervix, lower part of the uterus for the aegis child birth, and this process is known as the parturition. This diagram show the placenta and the locations of the placenta. Another endocrine glands means the gastrointestinal tracts, means the endocrine in nature because the secretion of the hormones also. The origins of the gastrointestinal tract develops from the endoderm of the embryo, and hormones innermost layer of the wall of the alimentary canals is called mucosa. Contain cells of the mucosa of the stomach and intestine secrete important hormones. Number 1, stomach. The mucosa of the pyloric regions of the stomach synthesize, stores and secretes the hormones gastrin. This hormones acts as the gastric glands and stimulates the secretion of the hydrochloric acid and pepsinogen. Number B, intestine. The secrete the following hormones and secretin. It secreted by the intestinal mucosa or duodenum and jejunum. It acts on the exocrine parts of the pancreas and stimulates secretions of water and bicarbonates ions. etc. Somatostain secreted by the delta cells, islets of Langerhans of pancreas, inhibits the secretion of the glucagon by the alpha cells and insulin by beta cells. Pancreatic polypeptides is secretes by pancreatic polypeptides cells of islets of Langerhans. It inhibits the release of the pancreatic juice from the pancreases. Just like showing the gastrointestinal tract. Other endocrine glands. Example for human heart. The human heart is an organ that pumps blood throughout the body via the circulatory system, supplying oxygen and nutrients to the tissues and removing carbon dioxide and other wastes. The human heart normally beats 70 to 75 times in a minute, average 72 beats per minute. The average adult heart is about 12 cm. Its weight varies, male from 280 to 340 grams and average 300 grams, and females from 230 to 280 grams and average 250 grams, and weight of the heart is said to be about 0.45% body weight in the males and 0.40% in females. Origins: mesodermal in origins. Locations: situated in the thoracic cavity in between the two lungs and slightly tilted to the left. Hormones of human heart. Actually, the heart secrete peptide hormones and called the ANF, atrial natriuretic factors, and it responds to increase return of the deoxygenated blood. So the human heart, the four chamber, two auricles and two ventricles, and show the exact structure of the human heart. Now this is the conclusions. After going through the above account, the endocrine system is a system of regulation of the body, internal organs, and through the hormones, and secreted by the endocrine cells and directly into the blood of diffusings through the intracellular space and adjacent cells. Mixed endocrine cells and exocrine glands are the pancreases, ovaries, and testes, and they produce the hormones, but also involved in the other roles and also significant roles in human body. So the reference book of endocrinology, and thanks to all